And welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. And after a holiday weekend, how are you feeling today, Mark?
Well, the no countdown thing caught me off guard there.
We talked about it last show.
I was on. You even told me like 2 minutes ago. You're like,
did.
hey, there won't be a countdown again today. Well, let me tell you. Here's how my holiday went.
Okay.
On Friday, I was all ready to come in and take my Cowboy stuff down because I was embarrassed because we were so bad defensively. Offensively, we were good. So Thanksgiving Day was partially ruined because of the Cowboys. And I was, as a Cowboy fan, I was humiliated. And that's why I say, thank God. These are the things we give thanks for. Thank God for the Eagles and the Steelers because we still look like a good football team compared to those two jokers. So I want to thank all the lousy Pennsylvania football teams who made me feel better yesterday because I felt like garbage on Thursday from like 4:30 to 7:30.
Once you stopped creating turnovers, it's been all downhill from there.
We do not stop anyone.
Nope.
We extra point kickers get very tired against the Cowboys because we give up touchdowns in bunches.
So we're going to talk today. The CEO of Twitter stepped down. We're going to talk about that. There is a new variant of COVID we think is worth talking about. There's a trial coming up that's actually starting today, and we're going to dive into why the media is not.
We should have a new strand giveaway for Christmas.
Is that
the first one in the area to have the new strand?
Oh,
Wouldn't that be cool?
It's never. We're gonna. It could be annual at this rate.
Every year we could give out a new strand of COVID.
At this rate, it's going to be annual.
We should get a sponsor for that.
We could, and then
could we call the Wuhan? What's it called?
Wuhan.
They could sponsor it.
Someone's got to sponsor it. And then we're going to tell an interesting story about a snowstorm. 50 people were trapped in a pub with a cover band, and you and I are going to dive into what would that mean for you and I.
It's a bad movie away.
It's a bad movie. A script needs to be written up almost immediately. It'd be a good rom-com. It could be a rom-com.
I agree. You could make it entertaining.
Yes.
When you think of it, let's just start right here because this is the most relevant. Who cares about the new strand of COVID that's going to wipe out society? Let's talk about first of all, the cover band was an Oasis cover band.
Correct.
Didn't they sing Champagne Supernova?
I have to look.
Isn't that the Oasis song that I know? So anyway, when you hear this, being trapped in somewhere, now you're trapped in a pub. So there's worse places to be.
Okay.
But what is the first thing? Trapped in a pub with 50 people for 3 days, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
For me, I'm so corny. The first thing that pops into I'm one of those people. I will do whatever it takes to drive home at the end of the night. I will do anything and everything to sleep in my own bed that night.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So for me, my initial thought's going to be different than yours. But my initial thought is just like, where am I sleeping? How am I getting my contacts out? Like, how am I going to make this as pleasurable as possible?
My first thought, and you talk about first world problems.
Right.
My first thought is, I am stuck with 50 people who aren't going to be able to shower for 3 days. That's my first thought.
See, so funny. You're almost. Are you more unselfish than me? Does that make you more unselfish than me?
Unselfish.
That my first thought was me. Like, where am I sleeping?
It's kind of me. It's like all these people are going to stink. Like when you stink, you don't really smell yourself. Sure. When everyone else stinks, I'm thinking this is not going to be pleasant come about Tuesday.
So I'm actually more unselfish by thinking about myself because I don't want to stink for everybody else.
That's it. You're trying to relieve everyone else of the presence of Jeff. That makes sense. And of course, when they it's snowing and they're like, because it's not like 9 feet come down in 2 minutes. It's not like they're dropping frozen turkeys from the sky. So as you're watching, like, oh, now we're stuck, and when are they going to get us out? I don't know. When are they going to? It's not like they know immediately. 3 days. So
guests, band members, and staff at the Tan Hill Inn in Northern England. By the way, about this pub, part of why this happened, it's the highest, the most remote pub in England. So it is kind of like the concept is like you're venturing to this pub, right? It's this idea.
And now you're not venturing home.
No. It's in Tan Hill Inn in Northern England. They have been passing the time by playing board games, eating roast dinners. However, they have been out of sausage. Here's the real question.
They've been out of sausage?
They have officially run out of sausage.
That is such a big deal. It's newsworthy. Like, hey, by the way, let the reporters know we're all good, but we're out of sausage.
In England, that might be the thing. I'm not sure. Here's the real question. You are stuck in with a tribute band. Do they get up and do the show the second night?
Oh my God, yes.
Do they get up and do the show the third night?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Since they're band members, they can play other stuff.
But they're a tribute band.
No, but I get it. I mean, after a while, you're like, dude, what can you play? I'm sure there's parts where the guitarists are just like strumming acoustic and singing. And
okay, so here's the next question.
I mean, it's been open mic night for 48 hours because, who wants to sing this time?
Maybe. Here's my next question. If you're the band, are you expecting to get paid for the second and third night?
No, because you're eating free food and drinking extra beer.
Yeah, but not by choice.
Do you think the bar is running their tab? Like, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one.
Do you think the pub's just giving stuff out?
There comes a point, yes. They're trash.
I agree. I would argue almost the opposite way, though. The first night, they're probably comping everything.
I think the first night you had to pay.
Really?
After the first night.
I think the first night you're comping everything because you're thinking, oh, they'll all be gone in the morning. So you're just throwing out beers and you're throwing out cheese and meats, and it's like, be merry, let's get through this together. And you're just
I understand. Once you realize you're stuck.
And so now if you're the pub owner, you get to night 2, all of a sudden it's like, maybe this isn't gonna, like, there's 9 feet of snow outside. Maybe this isn't ending as soon as I thought.
I think up until closing time on the first night, the tabs were running and people cashed out. Then I think kind of after that, I don't think they charged them anymore.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Interesting. I'm sure they were, knowing England and everything else, I'm sure they probably didn't.
No, it could be, like some of these old bars that are, said there's a hotel, there's an apartment upstairs, there are rooms, there are some that are like that. So maybe they did have shower accessibility. But then you need a lot because you don't have towels.
Yeah.
Because you're not a hotel, so do you have a washer dryer that runs?
So here's just the basic facts that the story has. Around 50 guests were forced to stay for a third night on Sunday. One person was removed by mountain rescue due to a medical condition. The snow is 9 feet deep in certain areas up to the pub. The visitors have been advised not to drive, even in a 4x4. We're all sleeping down here again tonight. Nobody else is going anywhere now. We're just going to make sure everybody is safe. There have been photos circulating from the pub showing guests doing pub quizzes, eating roast, singing karaoke, sleeping on the floor of the pub with blankets, and dancing to the tribute band that they have now officially renamed Snow Aces.
Awesome.
There you go.
I love it.
So this sounds like in this picture, everyone is sleeping in the pub. There are no upstairs. There is no room.
I mean, most bars are like that.
Yeah. In the outside picture, there doesn't appear to be a second story. Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
Oh.
I think by the second night, I'm telling the band to we're good. It's all right. We're good here.
But you're there all day.
I understand that.
I wonder if they have television, because you could have family movie night and they could all hunker down, and
I'm sure they must have some sort of television with something, right?
They must have something
with service. Interesting story. I would struggle. I would not be good at this. I would be very I wouldn't be claustrophobic, but I would just be very introverted, I need out of here. This is not for me.
Well, see, this is I tend to agree with you on this one. It's why I hate flying.
Okay.
And I'm the only person in the world. I don't know if we've ever talked about flying. I am the only person in the world who gets more relaxed when they get on the plane. My tension is in the airport of, what if I miss my flight? What if they delay my flight? What if they cancel my flight? Because I'm helpless.
Okay.
And I have been in places. I was in Philadelphia once and needed to take a connector to Harrisburg because my car's in Harrisburg. They canceled my flight.
Sure.
I went to the thing. I said, now what do I do? They said, we put you on the next one. I said, when is it? They said, it's in 13 hours.
Yeah.
I was like, so I'm going to sit here. So I had to rent a car in Philly, drive it to Harrisburg so I could get my car and driving home. And I hate the helplessness. And that's why I'd much rather drive than fly, because if I want to stop, I can stop. If I want to start,
the helplessness doesn't bother me. What the things that you said that throw me off, like having to rent a car, not my car, having to be in the airport, like not my area, right? Like not somewhere I'm there every day. Like that's not my bar or the funny part about this story, and my girlfriend would tell you, if 50 people got stuck in my house, I'd be fine. Like it wouldn't, but I would turn into like Mr. Host and here's a pillow and that. But like being stuck with 50 people elsewhere, like I'm out. No, thank you. Like I don't need that.
No, I do get it. No. No, I'm with you.
I don't even know the word how I would describe it, but there's just something about the control, and it's mine, and it's like familiarity and like taking care of it.
You know who the most popular people are? You know, like the Conch. I don't think Lord of the Flies. Do you know Lord of the Flies?
No, not off the I know of the Lord of the Flies, and I read it, but it was so long ago.
I read it in 8th grade, but all I remember is the Conch. You had to hold the Conch to speak. Okay. That was like the most powerful people here are the ones with the phone chargers.
Okay.
The chick who had the phone charger in her purse is the most popular person in the
That's a very for the first night, yes. You are exactly right. That's so very true. The first night. After the first night, now it becomes like who has the pillow, who has the blanket, who has the necessities. Like that, then that's what matters.
So there's
anyone can sleep on the floor for the first night. The second night, you'd be amazed at how many people like are over sleeping on the wooden floor.
Oh, listen, I think I'd be over it on the first night.
There you go.
And here's the other thing. You've got people cuddling up purely for comfort. But then by the second night, you're cuddling with someone who stinks. And now is it comfortable?
You're really big on the smell part of this.
When I watch some of these shows, when I watch like these old time, from whether it's a Western or whether it's something, one of the first thoughts that come to my mind is, God, these people must just stink. Don't you think that?
No, it never, like, that's the funny part. You keep bringing up the smell, and that part, honest to God.
All the time.
Immediately, the first thing I would be looking around, and I would be saying, where is the most comfortable place to sleep? I would be claiming the bench, I would literally start looking around saying, like, where is the place where I have some privacy? And
there's 50 people in a pub. You have no privacy.
But there's got like behind the bar, off to the corner, somewhere in this pub, there is a place. But I mean, there must be a stage of some sort. They have a tribute band.
Yeah.
So immediately my thought comes to like, where can I find privacy to sleep?
Well, and I'm thinking Oasis isn't a young band, but to hear live, I'm wondering the age of the crowd.
Looking at the picture here, it is a very vast range.
Okay.
There's some white-haired folk. There is like a younger crowd. It is not just like a straight across the board.
It would be.
It's a different range.
It would be an interesting movie.
It'd be a good one. We'll start working on the script. That'd be a good one.
We'll get into that. I'm not sure. Someone ends up dead because someone would be so annoying. What are the odds that of 50 people, one of them isn't so annoying that you just bury him in a snowbank?
Well, that's the other dynamic of it too, is family, friends, things like that. Like if you go to a pub with 4 couples, one couple's not happy. Like one couple had a fight before you went to them. You know what I'm saying? Like that has to. That 25% odds, one of these couples was not having a great time before they got there. And now you're stuck in a pub with them.
That story just takes me back. I thought we were the only ones. I can remember we were heading to Wild Wings once. And we were on behind McDonald's and Arby's and TJ. Sure. We are just take me home. That's all right, fine. If you want to go, I'll take you home. So, yes, it is shocking how many people. Yeah. I was at a wedding party. One of my college buddies was there. So they sit us at this table. And we start telling a story. My ex and I start telling a story how we got in a fight on the way, reading the directions. Because this is before the days of just tapping at your phone and telling you where to go. And my buddy was like, see, it wasn't just us. And he starts telling his wife, He goes, my wife was so bad at reading the directions, I ripped them out of her hand and I was reading them while I was driving. So, yeah, it would be funny if you had like True Serum and when 4 couples show up and just be like, when's the last time you guys got in a fight? When's the last time and how many of them were within the last hour?
Yeah. No, a couple in that pub did not have a great ride up to the pub. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
I never realized it was that prevalent, but thank God it happened to you too.
That's all I'm saying. Let's move on to a little more serious of a matter. The World Health Organization named a new variant of concern, Omicron. I'm not really sure how to say this.
It sounds like a bad science fiction movie.
So you know me, I'm a nerd. I dove into some of this because I was curious about it. First, they described it as a variant of concern. I'm going to just little teacher student here for a while because some of this is interesting. This is a variant of concern. Delta and some of the other variants beforehand were actually referred to as a variant of interest. So the difference is obviously a variant of interest. They are watching it. They're interested in it, but they are not necessarily like throwing up red flags or alerts.
They're not in panic mode.
They're not in panic mode. A variant of concern is the opposite. Essentially what it means is that the variant is going to throw off, or it is more of a concern based off what the world is already doing now about the previous variant, if that makes sense. So when Delta came, they were, there was worries about the vaccines and everything else, but they said the vaccine should be good, keep putting them out, delivering them, everything else. This variant of concern, they are saying that we're not really sure if the vaccines will work. We're not really sure how this will all play out in the long hand. And because of that, countries have started to take notice. The US has started to ban travel from certain countries in Africa. Canada has as well. Europe is beginning to do the same. I know China and Japan have basically come out and have stopped all travel from Africa. And this has all happened over the weekend.
Yeah, it's not good.
No. So here's some other things, and I was kind of explaining this to you because I find some of this stuff fascinating. Maybe at some point we can have the infectious disease expert from UPMC back on, because Carrie came on with them while you were gone the 1 week, and he was really interesting to talk to, and I thought he made a ton of good points, but kind of dumbed it down for us so that we could understand it. When the Delta strain first came out, so what most people, their understanding of the vaccine and what you and I, the dumbed down version of this is basically you're adding a protein spike into your body when you take this. So the Delta strand had 9 protein spikes, typically. This one, Omicron, has 32 protein spikes. So what they're saying is because of those protein spikes, that can make it more effective, it can make it more transmissible, and it can just make it easier to incubate, adapt, and basically process person to person.
Incubate, adapt, and overcome?
Yes. Is that from something? Did I pull that out of my head?
Improvise, adapt, and overcome.
What is that from?
Clint Eastwood said it when he was Gunny Highway. And
there you go. And maybe that was might have been subconscious back there. So
Heartbreak Ridge.
So what the World Health Organization is saying, the basic math on this, based off of the models that they're running and what they've seen so far in South Africa and some of the other nations, Botswana, some of the other places that have had it, they're seeing that the transmission is up over 500% compared to the models of Delta in the original strands. And again, that's just transmission. So we're not talking necessarily like hospitalizations. We're not talking deaths. We're not talking any of those. However, the peer-to-peer transmission of this is extremely more effective than any other model they saw early on with COVID-19.
So basically, if you get it, it will be very easy for you to share it with me.
Very, very easy.
It's very thoughtful of you.
Going through and listening to the World Health Organization and watching some other videos of people I trust, one of the things that they kept saying was the viral load. So apparently the viral load of this variant is significantly higher than that of Delta. And that's what makes it so transmissible from person to person.
You got your booster, right?
So this is not to call anybody out. I got my booster almost immediately. And I'm pro-choice. I think the mandates I'm not a fan of the mandates and what we've been doing. However, I have been shocked at how few of people have gotten the booster, like stunned.
Well, I am I think I'm trying to get my booster this week, and I just wanted. You had it, and you had no issues.
So I had the same as I had the first 2 shots, right? Kind of felt grungy the next day.
That's what when my
and I
mom got
had
her
some-
booster the first night, she didn't feel wonderful.
Yes.
The next day by noon, she said she felt 100%.
Yeah. Now the biggest difference with this one was, and I'm not sure if it was a me thing or what it was. The first 2, like my arm was sore, but like after a day, like kind of with this one, my arm was sore for like 3-4 days after the shot. I mean,
Because-
it was really sore.
Because you're a baby.
That's what it was. Yes. So that's
Something about a blue whale.
Yeah, about a blue whale. That's an inside joke from earlier today. So this is one of those things where we had the infectious disease expert on from UPMC before, and at one point he said, he goes, listen, he's like, this is 4 to 5 years. He goes, before any of this is wrapped up. And so far he has hit the nail on the head. Like, it seems as if this is not necessarily something that we're just going to kind of like put aside.
Yes. Which makes it when you look back through, it is funny how the science people get the science and the political people just try to spin things, and obviously everyone wants it to be done because everyone just wants to go back to normal and
Yes.
to go back to normal. But you remember right away when Trump was like, at Easter we'll be in.
Yeah, I mean, well, early, so
and nobody knew.
It was so funny because very early on, talking to like certain people down in Harrisburg, and I'll never forget this. The one guy said to me on the phone, he goes, when they tell you 2 days, it's 2 weeks. When they tell you 2 weeks, it's 2 months. And when they tell you 2 months, it's 2 years. And that almost like eerily has stayed with me. And every once in a while, I'll think back to him saying that, and I'm like, he was dead on. And that whole 2-2-2-2. And so I just with this stuff, like Gary asked a good question, because we're gonna keep revisiting some of this stuff, because I kind of forget the world isn't normal. Like I've kind of gotten on about my life and moved on from it. Gary said, getting my booster on the 7th, but if that isn't resistant to Omicron, does that mean we're going to pile on yet another vaccination? Obviously, we are not doctors.
It's a very good question.
It's a very, very good question. The one thing that I can say, like with confidence, like I'm willing to say this, people from the World Health Organization, people that I've spoken to at different hospitals, they have said that the word vaccine is very tricky with this, and very much like a flu shot where it's annual and it's every year, and every year they look at a different strand, they create the new flu shot, and then you get the flu shot annually. There's this idea with vaccination, like it's a one shot and done.
Right.
And so to Gary's question and Gary's point, like I do think regardless of how effective the booster is, there's going to be another booster. And there's going to be another. Like this is not, it's more like a flu shot.
It is a flu shot.
Actual vaccination. And I think the sooner people wrap their heads around that, the better off everybody's going to be.
It's almost, we were talking about this in basketball yesterday. They should just rename it the COVID flu shot. So every year, like, are you getting your flu shot? Are you getting your COVID flu shot? There's going to be people that get one and not the other. I shouldn't say never. I don't get flu shots.
Sure.
My kids do. I never do because I never get the flu. And you hear these horror stories of people who say, I haven't had the flu in years. I got a flu shot and I got sick as a dog.
Right.
So I'm like, well, if I don't need it, I don't need it. So yeah, but you're right. It's when we hear like a polio vaccine, we get a vaccine as a kid. We never get polio. Right. We have it with, smallpox and all these other things.
Correct.
And this one's different.
And people get a flu shot and get the flu. Like it's a precaution. It's not a 100%, success thing. The wording, the modeling on some of the stuff from the beginning has been unfortunate, because the moment you said vaccination and the moment that, someone can be vaccinated and still get it, well, see, it doesn't work, or see, it's ineffective. And so I don't feel bad sounds corny, but I feel bad that the wording has been the way it is, because I feel like there would have been less grievance, much more acceptance to it. The conversation around it would have been much more tolerable between sides had the wording not been so poorly.
Well, and I think too, we've talked about this multiple times. I understand elections were coming, and Trump and Biden were, one of the things that gets lost in it is the Republican side. Trump was pushing for this in October before the November election. Trump was spouting that the vaccine is close. The vaccine is really close and it's coming. And it would be fascinating to see how the world would react to it if Trump had won. Would the right be so anti-vax as they are now? But the other aspect, and I said this immediately when after Biden won and Biden was inaugurated, and they had a spot, like a commercial spot during the Super Bowl last year of him and his wife telling people that, you should go get vaccinated. And I was like, if they really cared and they were really intelligent, it should have been Biden and a Republican. They should have found a top flight Republican who's like, listen, this is not about politics. This is not about my side and your side and their side. This is about the health of America and not overrunning our hospitals and not killing our nurses and our doctors and things like that. And they keep saying stuff's bipartisan, but they never act bipartisan. Like when Biden wins the presidency and half the country hates him, that same half the country hates his wife. That's the way it is. So putting his wife there softens it a little bit, but not very much. And the political machine, they need to have representatives together from both sides talking about this as opposed to fighting against it.
Yeah. The other interesting point, because it's a very, very valid point, the other interesting one that was brought up, I want to say it got brought up on Breaking Points, which is like a YouTube show. They used to be On the Hill Media. Now they're Breaking Points. But Sager on that show brought up, and I hadn't thought of it this way, he brought up the idea, it is not a coincidence that these variants and these different things are going to start popping up in third world countries, because they have not had the support. There was no warp speed action in Botswana. That's right. Just the reality of it. So
far as you know.
As far as I know, maybe they did have a warp speed plan of action.
Just didn't get the news didn't travel to us.
It may not have got to us. So he brings up the point, like, this is, back to that idea of it's far from over. It's not going away anytime soon. But as we move along with this, there is going to be kind of more of originally, as we were dealing with this, you went home, you quarantined, or you were locked away, but it was more peer-to-peer. And I think what you're going to start to see now is then it became state to state. So it was states competing for mass. It was states competing. And now what you're getting to is it's countries, it's nations. And we hadn't really thought of it that way before. But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Somebody brought up on here, like, the market crashed on Friday. As it becomes more of kind of a nation by nation problem, it's going to be interesting to see how diplomatic that can continue.
No, I'm with you.
So that whole aspect is going to be really, really, I don't want to call it nerve-wracking. Like, I'm not trying to make people nervous, but it's a lot easier to talk about some of this stuff when it's neighbor to neighbor or state to state. All of a sudden you start going country to country, and that's when things kind of get iffy. All right, another one. Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, is stepping down. He co-founded in 2006. He wrote this email to the company. Email was kind of very generic.
I quit.
Yeah. Email was kind of generic. Basically, he said, this feels like the right time to walk away. He goes, we have everything in place that we need to. He goes, I feel comfortable enough. And he goes, the goal was always to walk away at some point when we started this in 2006. They wanted to create a company where they could all kind of step aside. However, the part that's neat to me, and they actually already named their CEO. I know very, very little about him other than the fact that he was a Twitter employee. But I said to you before he was chosen today, the neat thing to me was this was the first time that a founder or a CEO was stepping aside from one of these companies that is influential, the social media, the convincing factory that is a Facebook or a Twitter, or even somebody like Musk, who, even though he's not in social media, his power within what he says on social media, like if Musk were to step away from Tesla, it would kind of riff, there'd be like, well, who's going to take over? Who's the next person in line? we've seen like Tim Cook take over at Apple. I know Google had a transition, those types of things, but this is in the new age where it really comes down to social media and their power and how much say they have in what happens in the world. This was the first time like a CEO was really stepping down. And I found that fascinating until they basically pointed out who was already coming in.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. Do you know
that.
how old the dude is?
I don't. I know he's younger than Jack Dorsey was.
No. Do you know how old Jack Dorsey is?
Oh, no, but I can find out for us. So that's not difficult. Jack Dorsey, do you know much about Jack Dorsey?
I didn't know his name until today.
Oh, really? You didn't know who Jack Dorsey was? So Jack Dorsey is 45. He was born in St. Louis, Missouri. His net worth is estimated at $11.8 billion.
That's it?
That's it.
Poor guy?
$11.8 billion. Yeah, right. Interesting thing about Jack Dorsey is Dorsey was always seen as the competitor to Zuckerberg. The idea of Twitter versus Facebook. Facebook buys out Instagram, and there was this idea that Dorsey and Zuckerberg essentially was I don't want to call it like he had a movie made about him, right? Like he had, whereas Dorsey was more of kind of like behind the scenes, not out and about, not as front facing as Zuckerberg, but Dorsey always kind of got the crap kicked out of him, for better or for worse, right? Like it was always Twitter had these problems and Twitter had this. And what's been fascinating in the last 2 years is to watch it turn on its head, where Dorsey's still seen as somebody who has problems, but more people now think Zuckerberg has the issues than Dorsey.
Well, it's because Facebook's bigger.
Yes.
And it's more prominent, so people care about it more. And
yes.
Yeah, it is interesting that because of how much influence these people have, and not because of what they say, but because of algorithms and how they manipulate the information that is shared.
If you or I were going to take over for Jack Dorsey, or you or I were going to take over for Mark Zuckerberg 10 years ago, it's just a product, right?
Right.
Like we're just stepping in and we're taking over this product and everything else. But now to take over the amount of power that comes with taking over one of these companies, it's different than taking over Apple. It's different than taking over Microsoft.
It's not just about a product or a service. It's about the influence.
It's almost like taking over like part political office in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of how much influence and say you're going to have and how many people come to see your product and what the trending topic is on it. So it's this weird balance of like product, but also like political influence and what goes behind it. And I find it, so the guy taking over, and I'm going to biff his name, Parag Agrawala is taking over. He was the CTO for Twitter until this morning. And now he will be the CEO. I haven't had a chance.
Does he just have one of those wooden things on his desk? It says Chief Technical Officer, and they move it and put in another one. Chief Executive Officer. Good job. Pat on the back. Nothing else changes.
It might. I mean, it's possible. It's possible. The funny, like, this is the interesting part about some of this stuff, whether it's Amazon or Twitter, Facebook, all that. I mean, when you go back, like if you watch The Social Network, or if you go back and watch like the original interviews with Jeff Bezos, like they started in a small one-room office. Like
Nike started in a garage.
Right. So these very basic things like that, like I'm sure some of it does carry over. I'm sure, like I have no doubt that there is some of that kind of just like changing the lettering on the window and like it's done. Like it's like
I get over it. Especially for young, like because 45 in the world of that world is young.
Is there anybody, I think this is like an interesting thing to touch on too before we move on. Is there this Parag Agrawala? Is there anybody who has shifted into more power in a less amount of time than this guy? Because think of it this way. Joe Biden becomes president, but even before he's president, he was vice president, right? Like he was, and
Trump,
people knew Trump. Yeah, but Trump. That's a good point, because Trump's political power Well, but see, I don't know how much political power Trump had before he became
Yeah,
president.
he didn't really. Now, this guy, as the chief technical officer, was obviously sitting in on the big meetings, and he had a lot of say.
And Dorsey says that. He's like, this guy has been with us step for step.
Yeah, it's not like he's green.
Correct. But you talk about, like, I bet you if I went to his Twitter yesterday, how many followers do you think he had on Twitter?
Not as many as he has today.
And you think about
no, it's a valid point. He's just been handed the keys to. He does. There are so few of these that have so much influence. I mean, when you Facebook, Twitter, they're 1 and 2, right?
I've always thought on the information side of things, I thought Twitter has always been a little more powerful than Facebook, because with Twitter, the media itself, don't be wrong, you can still share videos, you can still share pictures on Twitter and all that, but the real basis of Twitter is that written information. It is, correct, here's something, here it is for you, and it's small enough that you can take it in and move on. And so I've always viewed Twitter as a little more powerful from the spreading of information than Facebook is.
Okay.
Facebook, it's more links. If you don't click on the links, if you don't fall for the clickbait, if you don't, you know,
is that a shot? Are you taking a shot at me?
I'm just simply saying that if Twitter didn't have certain protocols in place, it could become it could just be, and some of it already is, but it could really become, because you don't have to click. Like, it's the piece of information that they want you to think, that they want you to know or to believe, for better and for worse,
it's already there.
It's right there.
No, I get
it. And it's in front of you. So I don't know. I've always thought of that as more powerful.
It is in the new world, because someday there'll be a new Zuckerberg. Obviously, with Apple, you know, Steve Jobs stepped down, with Microsoft, Bill Gates. But as you talked about, those were incredibly successful technology companies, but they weren't. They were just about products.
Yes.
They weren't about, and not that I'm not gonna say Apple doesn't have influence, but not like social media influence.
Correct.
So no, it is a fascinating point.
Apple can affect my wallet, but it doesn't really affect like how I think about the world, whereas Twitter and Facebook has significantly more pull than that.
That's interesting. This dude if this was a bad movie, he would be like the evil guy who now turns on society and tries to rule the world.
Yes, he very well could be. I don't know. He seems like a nice guy. He's smiling in the picture. That's all I need to know.
Wouldn't you be smiling? What do you think he makes a year?
That's a really good question too. I don't know. Like, if you're already
making a couple bucks.
If you're already the CTO.
Well, that's true. He wasn't poor before.
Correct. And now, like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
Listen, I'll say this in public. I've said to you several times, and I've told people I'm very close with, like, there will be a day where I will miss being an assistant coach. Like, I will look back and I will be like, you know what was really fun? Like, being an assistant coach. Because you just didn't have the weight of it, and you just didn't have so let me ask you this. So this guy taking over Twitter, all I'm saying is there could be a day a month from now where he looks back and he's like, you know what was fun? Not being Jack Dorsey.
It's obviously an 8-figure-a-year contract.
Sure.
Is it a 9-figure-a-year contract?
It's a good question. I don't know. I would guess no, but if you told me yes, I'm not surprised.
Okay. I'm with you there.
Okay.
All
right, let's do it. Last one. This one's really more for me. If you guys get something out of it, I hope so. In the last couple of weeks, we've seen the Rittenhouse trial. Recently, you brought up
the one in Georgia.
One in Georgia recently, and then there's also another one that you.
Oh, I saw this one. The one. He was the black actor from whatever who claimed that he was beaten up, and it was in
Chicago.
Yes, and
Jesse.
Jesse is the name.
I can't remember.
I think that's finally coming to trial, because it was fraudulent. It was proved that he made it all up.
Okay.
And that wasn't a hate crime, that he fabricated it all. And I think he's coming to trial too. So we have had a lot of famous trials.
Yeah.
Not famous. newsworthy that got a lot of run
Yes.
lately. This
So-
one has not.
So I just want to scream this from the mountaintops, and I'm not putting down the Rittenhouse trial. I'm not putting down what just happened in Georgia. I'm not saying that those things don't hold a place in society or that what happened to certain people don't matter. I cannot express to people enough how important this trial is with Maxwell after Epstein's death. This is something that should be the trial of the decade. And media, mainstream media specifically, is most likely, I don't want to call it a cover up, but they are not going to cover it. They're not going to, they're too exposed. There's too many high profile people who want this swept away. And a lot of them make money based off of their news stations or their TV channels. There's politicians' dollars at works going into this. There's so much money involved around this trial. Whoever needs to be paid to keep it off of your TV station their pockets are lined so fat right now, it's incredible. So I cannot express to people enough to please take interest in this trial, dig it up, find it. It's going to be hard. You're not going to find, if you turn on Fox or CNN, it's not going to be there. If you turn on MSNBC, the clips and what you're going to see, it's going to be a blip on the radar for these mainstream medias. And this should be, I mean, there are more people involved with this, with political power, with financial power, that this should be the biggest trial of the decade, without a doubt.
Oh, I totally agree. And it just shows how powerful people can make things go away.
It's unbelievable.
Yes, you can buy your way out.
Yes.
That
So one of the things connected to this is Prince Andrew still has not been arrested, which I had told you before. Prince Andrew actually told his security to basically block anybody from coming in. He has not left his place in almost, I think they're up to like 8 months now.
Is it that long?
Yeah, I mean, he
can't get served.
So he cannot get served because he knows that like this is it. Like if he gets served and he goes in, like this is the end. And that is still ongoing. So even that, you talk about just like political power and like corruption, being able to use, a country's guard, like his own guard, against being served papers to go in for basically like child pedophilia. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Nope, I'm with you.
Some of the names, just to remember, because again, if you don't say, like, we're going to be one of the only people talking about this, but it's important. Some of the names included with this, people who have been in the black book of Jeffrey Epstein. So this is his flight travel log,
Right.
And then phone numbers and different things like that. They include Donald Trump. They include the Clintons, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, and their daughter as well. It includes Britain's Prince Andrew. It includes Tony Blair, the former prime minister. It includes Bill Cosby. It also includes supermarket mogul Ron Burkle. Just going through and picking out some of these. Henry Kissinger. Also includes John Kerry. Several Saudi arms dealers. Media titan Rupert Murdoch. Has been on the island. This is, I mean, it's unbelievable.
What does Rupert Murdoch own?
What's that?
What does Rupert Murdoch own? Fox News.
Yes.
So that's why it won't be on Fox.
No, it's not going to be on anything. The money that has gone into making sure that this is not the number one story for the last 2 years. Because I'm not putting down COVID. I'm not putting down politics. Like, I'm not putting down anything else that has happened in the world that is important to other people. Climate change, like whatever is important to you, I get it. I truly get that. The amount of people that have been hurt by Jeffrey Epstein, the amount of people that were trafficked, the amount of people that were sexually abused, the amount of powerful people that are still like running countries. Think about that for a second.
Right.
Think about the names I just said and how much this came out in public. And our choices for president were Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton.
Right.
Two people that are connected through and through with Jeffrey Epstein. And that was our choices for president. And it was like it never happened. It was like it just we went on with the election as if it wasn't a thing. It is unbelievable how well this has been swept under the rug. And I say that, like, don't get me wrong, like you can find the articles, but again, this should be the number one
story. You
story.
won't find it on ABC Nightly News.
You will not. This should be the number one story in the world right now. And watch. Think about how much time we just spent watching the Rittenhouse trial. Think about that. and you can't even find this on your TV.
Your point could not be better
Thank
made.
you. So please take an interest in it. Again, I don't want to like waste your
Belabor
time,
it, but we will. We'll belabor it.
We don't. Okay, that's it. Anything else for us?
I got nothing.
Nothing. That was it.
Well, I just, I've got to get back in the flow again. It's a little, still working off the tryptophan, couple extra pounds. Got to get a little sweat going and feel good again.
Working off the turkey still. I always give you time limits, and then you never 15 seconds. Favorite part about Thanksgiving? Did you have something that just like really knocked your socks off, or not really?
That's a good question. It's weird when my daughter was home from college,
right?
So just having the kids around. Again, Thanksgiving dinner. Ours was weird. We did our family Thanksgiving on Saturday, so we did a small family Thanksgiving on Thursday, and just having those three morons around the table at the same time as we were there, it was a riot.
Yeah.
And just when you got a kid away at college that's home once a month or whatever, those are fewer and further between.
Yeah.
So that was probably the highlight.
I'll give the Wheel Inn another shout out. We went there, and they knock it out of the park every time I go. So the Wheel Inn, it's outside of Ralston, Pennsylvania, so above Williamsport. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's like a membership kind of club thing, and this is kind of like a free plug for them. I've been going there almost my entire life, and I've never left disappointed, ever. They just knock it out of the park every time. So that was where we had Thanksgiving dinner again.
I'll throw this out too. I stumbled across on Wednesday night. There were some realtor friends that were going out, and we ended up at the Trail Inn and up the Crick Road. And there was an 80s. It wasn't just 80s. It was 80s, 90s. It was modern. It was a cover band called 180.
Okay.
And they were arguably the best bar cover band I've ever heard.
Okay.
They were phenomenal.
Nice.
And they went. I told, because one of the guys in the band is a realtor, and that's why I thought he was just there. And then he went up and started singing.
Uh-huh.
And I sent him a message the next day. I was like, any band that can go from like Stand By Me to Ozzy Osbourne in like a 4-song span, and they're just killing it. They're playing modern country songs. They're playing modern radio songs, but they were all upbeat. They were all like, and
but to your point, the range.
It was
just
yes. If you go and you're, they heard again.
We should do like a local, not like a local hotspot, but like you and I should talk about like 1 or 2 things every week that we enjoyed like locally. Do you know what I'm saying?
My couch.
Does that make sense? Your couch, yeah.
My
well,
couch.
this is a perfect example. I went through you take stuff for granted, right? Like it just sits there and everything else. I actually drove through Penn College's campus for the first time ever because I went to watch a basketball game there. That campus is unbelievably nice. Not that I thought it wasn't nice, but I had just never taken the time to like drive through it ever. I can't speak highly enough. Like it is way more of a campus vibe than what I think they get credit for, especially locally. Because
when I was a kid, it was whack. And it was just a community college. And then ever since it became part of Penn State, they just kept putting more money into it, and it got nicer and nicer. I remember the first time that I had a colleague who started going there, and you're like, so after 2 years, you have to transfer to Penn State. And they're like, no, I can just finish 4 years here. And then you're like, wow, it's like a real college. And now they have Division III sports, and they're playing. Did they play Lyco real tough the other day?
They did. It was a really good game. Went to overtime.
So
that was the other one too. Have you driven up to Lyco in like the new entranceway? I don't know what they're calling it.
I know what you mean. I've driven past it, but I've never driven up.
Same thing. Like they cleaned it up real nice. Looks up. So I don't know. I feel like once a week we should just talk about the things that like either caught our eye or we were surprised by like locally.
I don't know.
Because both of those,
the thing that surprised me was the band 180. If you can see them, I know they're playing at Hull sometime soon.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Sweet. Good stuff.
There you go.
We'll end it there.
That's all I got.
Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to all of our sponsors, and be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news. You and I are going to have to sit down and talk. We're going to have to figure out December.
Yes.
And we're going to have to figure out how we're going to divvy that up. Because it won't start December 1st, but we'll start.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Last year we started the second week of December.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yes.
And then the neat thing is Christmas is a Saturday.
Yes.
So we will do it all the way leading up to Christmas Eve.
So we'll be here Christmas Eve.
Calendar
Is that what
kind
you're
of,
saying?
I mean, maybe we'll pre-record, but the point I'm making is the calendar kind of works.
Hey, I got nothing to do Christmas Eve.
There you go. Calendar kind of works.
I
in my
mean,
favor
Christmas
this year.
Eve, but not Christmas noon Eve.
Yeah. Because last year, I think last year we did 13 days because Christmas was on a Friday or a Thursday. I can't remember what it was.
One of those two.
So we cut it short, but this like actually runs up to the Friday. So I think we'll have like 15 actual days.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. We'll get it sorted out for you guys. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
Later.